Okay, this is Calculus 2, and I'm going to try to do an example of integration by parts. Now, real quick, just to recap, if we take the derivative of two things, like u and v, integration by parts says, no, the product rule. The product rule says it's u dv plus du times v. The first one left alone, the derivative of the second, the derivative of the first one times the second, or whichever order. That would tell us that the integral of u dv plus the integral of v du would be just uv, and we move it all to the other side. We say the integral of u dv is uv minus the integral of v du. That is the formula for integration by parts. I know people are going to want an example of this. So let's do an example of something crazy, like someone tells you to take the integral of the arc sine of x. Yuck, yuck, yuck. Nobody knows whose derivative is arc sine of x. Not yet. All of our other techniques are exhausted. We now resort to integration by parts. We want u to be something. We think about the Lipit formula. We don't have a logarithm, but we do have an inverse trig function. So u is going to be the arc sine of x, something that's horrible, whose derivative is way nicer. dv is going to be, well, here's your u. dv can only just be the dx. That's sort of a weird thing just like that. So du, we know that the derivative of arc sine is 1 over the square root of 1 minus x squared. This is a differential, so we put the dx there. dv, what is v? It's the integral of that. The integral of just dx is 1. Right? No, the derivative of that would be constant. It would be x, like we're thinking about the integral of dx, which would just be x. Right, so the whole thing turns into uv, arc sine of x times x. I'll put the x first. X times the arc sine of x minus the integral of v du. X times this minus x times the square root of 1 minus x squared dx. And then you think, how would we deal with that? And then you think, wait a second, that is so totally u substitution, right? U equals 1 minus x squared, du equals negative 2x dx. So we keep our x arc sine of x here, and then we subtract what? Negative 1/2 du is the x dx, which we have. And so I'm going to put that negative 1/2 out front, negative 1/2 out front, and we've got the du, and then that is 1 over square root of u, which is u to the negative 1/2 power, and x arc sine of x plus 1/2. What is this? Is going to be u to the add 1 to that. 1/2 dividing by 1/2 is the same thing as multiplying by 2 plus c. The 1/2 and the 2 cancels out, and we are left with x arc sine of x plus the square root of 1 minus x squared plus c. And if you take the derivative of that, you should end up getting just arc sine of x. Isn't that awesome?